My Google alerts over the past couple days between Can You See Me in the Dark, the post Skid Row stuff, then the Bon Jovi stuff has been, I have like 40 emails every single day. Yeah, no, wild, right? You know, this whole experience getting to front Skid Row for 4 shows came from, you know, it was very humble beginnings. I've known Rachel Bolan and Snake Sabo for probably the better part of a decade. Living here in Nashville. They're the sweetest men and perpetually 15 inside. So we all kind of just get along, you know?
That's awesome.
Inside, I'm a 15-year-old boy as well. We were at a mutual friend's birthday party and he asked me, he's like, hey, would you ever consider fronting Skid Row for a couple shows? And I'm like, man, that would be so much fun. What's going on? He's like, well, we're having some trouble. You know, we're pretty sure we're losing our singer and we have these dates that we have to make up. And so I said, well, let me know what they are and I'll check with my team and our schedule and see what I can do. So he calls my bluff a couple days later. He's like, dude, this is happening now. Like, can you make this happen? And so I talked to the adults and I'm like, hey, I want to do this. It looks like we're fine, but let's clear the schedule. So we got it done. And then they announced it. Like officially a couple weeks after that. And then all of us kind of realized like, oh wait, this is like beyond friends helping friends out. This is bigger than the two of us. Like, cause it's just like, oh wow. Like and then I realized it too in myself because I'm from Pennsylvania. So I grew up listening to Skid Row and Bon Jovi and like all of my Jersey friends and those hooligans that, you know, it's people don't know this, but in like central PA and like Jersey, it's like perpetually 1987. It's like, that's what it is. And so my early beginnings of being a teenager when, you know, I was that girl, like I said before, like I was bringing Cinderella CDs and Skid Row and Dio and Alice Cooper CDs to like slumber parties where we would be listening to Backstreet Boys or Boys to Men or whatever was happening at the time that I wasn't interested in. I was interested in like the 80s stuff. So Skid Row, these are the men that raised me. So what I realized, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like so much bigger than what I thought. And now my internal inner child is screaming. And then like, I'm hearing from people that I haven't heard from in like 15 years, how like they're bringing their daughters to come see the show because now there's this like dad-daughter thing happening. And then, anyway, so throughout the experience, I treated it like an Olympic sport. I'm like learning the songs, and then it came with the pressure of like, oh my gosh, like this isn't just me getting up there and covering some Skid Row songs. I'm literally being the front person. And it was new for me because it was the first time I'm actually playing a full set with just being the singer and not playing a guitar or a piano or something. So that was wild in itself. So then fast forward, it was such a moving and beautiful experience to get to front these bands because I was super nervous. You know, that first show was just, I was on 11, you know, like emergency level, you know, of like, I have to pull this off. And I did, thankfully, I pulled it off. It was so much fun. I got to lose myself in this music that I grew up listening to, and now I get to do it. And then that I'm making these moments with these men. We had these tearful moments after a couple of the shows where I'm embraced, you know, I'm being like enveloped by Snake, and he's like, that dude, Quicksand Jesus, I've never had, we did this kind of like riff off of each other part that we didn't really plan, but he started singing, like playing something, I would answer him, and then I kind of extended it. And he was just like crying in my shoulder. He's like, I've never made a moment like that with any of us. I'm like, oh my God, buddy, let's do it again.
So
and
cool.
those things. And then of course, now the aftermath of that, then I get asked, and this is something that was happening before. This had nothing to do with Skid Row, but I got asked to send in a question, like a random question to Jon Bon Jovi, because they're trying to gather questions from like musicians to ask him for, you know, for this interview. And so then the interview comes out, and so I'm getting all these like Google alerts for this interview. I'm like, oh, cool. His interview is, I'll listen to what he said to answer my question, because it's not just me answering questions. And then they mention me to him, and he's like, oh, please join Skid Row. You're the best thing to happen to Snake since he met me. And like all of this stuff, like about what I can do. And I'm like, first, my internal teenager's like, Jon Bon Jovi knows who I am. Oh my God. And then I'm like, oh my God, how sweet of him to say all these things. And then from that, then I'm hearing from my dad, who's like, I remember you blasting, like, we used to cover Living on a Prayer, like back in PA bars and stuff. And he's like, you used to listen to Slave to Grant. Like, what are you thinking right now? I'm like, I don't know what to think. This is crazy. It's like this full circle, like, if my, in 1996, like, if you had told me that this was going to be this like beautiful, bookend to this story of my journey in rock, I would have said, you're a liar. That will never happen to me. And so the fact that it has, it's so much more than just like, oh, look, I got mentioned by some rock stars. It became this beautiful thing that now I can carry forever. It's like, even if it all, whatever, that's great. I get to put that on my tombstone. it's
what an awesome experience. Like, for real. That's so sick. I love when people get an opportunity to do something outrageous like that. So hearing that, and like, I see that like truly affected you and your soul. That's so fucking cool. I'm so happy for you.
What I realized is, like, have you ever seen was it Tropic Thunder, that movie where he's like, I'm a dude and playing a dude.
Disguised as another dude.
I said that in the bus to the boys. I'm like, what I'm realizing right now, because I put on the leather pants, the whole thing, to do that thing. And what I realized, I like looked at me, I'm like, I'm just a girl. Like, when I was a teenager, all I wanted to be was a girl dressed up like a dude that dresses up like a girl in a rock band. It's like, that's like, and so I finally got to like achieve my dream.
That's hilarious.